know that most of what you've seen, read, or heard about Billy the Kid is untrue? My name is Gale Cooper. I'm a medical doctor and forensic psychiatrist. My specialty is murder case consultation for the defense. For 20 years, I've used my expertise to uncover the real Billy the Kid. Researching over 40,000 pages of archival documents and books, I've written the revisionist history. It's shocking, it's liberating, and I've written books demolishing the hoaxes, hijacking the history. My talks will share with you what I've found. Cover-ups, misinformation, and fakery, to use Old West lingo, will bite the dust. This talk is about how I researched the real history of Billy the Kid. History exists as facts and their interpretation. This is how I developed my revisionist history of Billy the Kid. My approach relied on primary sources, meaning original documents. Fortunately for Billy Bonney's history, they're profuse. They're collected papers of people like Lew Wallace in the Indiana Historical Society or Thomas Benton Catron in the University of New Mexico's Center for Southwest Research. And Billy Bonney's words are saved in his letters retained by Lew Wallace and in his deposition and court of inquiry testimony in the National Archives. My strategy was to visit collections and look at every page in every archival box. It takes weeks. Though collections are indexed, documents can be mislabeled or missed. That's how I authenticated Billy's wrongly dated letter in the Lew Wallace collection and how I found Wallace's secret letter to Absalom Markland confirming his fear of the Santa Fe ring. Archivists can also miss papers accidentally mixed with others. In that way, in ring boss Thomas Benton Catron's papers, I located 2 of his undiscovered cipher code lists for secret letters and telegrams. Increasingly available are also digitized antique newspapers. Most important is that I get a copy of every document even remotely connected to the history. Some collections I copy completely, like the National Archives Departments of Justice and the Interior records of Frank Warner Angel, or the National Archives Department of the Treasury Secret Service reports of Azariah Wild, or the Herman Weisner collection in New Mexico State University Library at Las Cruces. That's how I made my own library of thousands of reference documents for ongoing research. They also empower my book's readers by being quoted in my texts and listed in my bibliographies. But the sources alone can't tell the real history. For example, Billy the Kid history is heavily distorted by outlaw myths created by the Santa Fe ring and Lew Wallace. Deciphering truth is where historical research becomes an art. Sources must be weighed against each other to establish credibility and to eliminate hearsay and biased fakery. And one must formulate the big picture of an individual or an occurrence to check claims. For example, in my revisionist history, I see the Santa Fe ring as precipitating events. Sources that hide it are obviously suspect to me. I also researched history beyond immediate Lincoln County War events. That enabled me to expose the pattern of territorial anti-ring uprisings that culminated in that war. And researching Thomas Benton Catron's entire life enabled me to confirm his monopolistic mercantile motives and his responsibility for Lincoln County assassinations. I also used 300 expert consultants specializing, for example, in firearms, cattle drives, geology, astronomy, weather conditions, period clothing, tintype photography, and 19th century military to gain perspective on events. Adding to reality are historical sites. For Billy the Kid history, one is fortunate. New Mexico's economic depression, arguably a product of ongoing Santa Fe ring corruption, has minimized development. Conrad Keeler Nagel, in his 1943 doctoral thesis, The History of Silver City, New Mexico, 1870 to 1886, concluded that the ring had, quote, retarded progress in New Mexico, close quote, by purging New Mexico's valuable and honorable citizens by murder and forced flight, and draining public resources for private gain. So most historic sites are untouched from the days of Billy Bonney. At them, one can experience the events or test them. For example, I went to the John Tunstall murder site, taking the same dirt trail he himself and his men, including Billy, rode through the forested land. Off that trail, at the spot he was murdered, I lay on the cold red earth to merge for a moment with him. And 600 yards away, as the trail climbs, is a clearing sheltered by a rock-studded embankment where his escaping men stopped and realized he wasn't with them. I had a friend fire a period revolver at the killing site. I could hear it from that bowl, as did Billy. As he testified in his June 8, 1878 deposition to investigator Frank Warner Angel, quote, deponent, Wiedemann, and Brewer rode over a hill towards the other, which was covered with large rocks and trees, in order to defend themselves and make a stand. But the attacking party, undoubtedly seeing Tunstall, left off pursuing deponent and the two with him. Shortly afterwards, we heard 2 or 3 separate and distinct shots, and the remark was then made by Middleton that they, the attacking party, must have killed Tunstall. Close quote. And in Lincoln, where that historic town is intact, I sat in the deep ledge of the courthouse jail's second-floor east window, exactly where and how Billy must have sat, and pointed my imaginary Whitney double-barrel shotgun to the stone plaque in the ground, marking where hated ring-eyed rustler murderer Deputy Guard Bob Ollinger fell, fatally struck by buckshot of his own weapon. Then there are the books published on Billy, with the first by his killer, Pat Garrett, and ongoing to the present. I read them and found most parroting the outlaw myth of Billy the Kid and missing the role of the Santa Fe ring. There are only a few I'd recommend. The most scholarly are by British Frederick Nolan, who used a research team and discovered the Frank Warner Angel reports. His books are 1965's The Life and Death of John Henry Tunstall, 1992's The Lincoln County War, a Documentary History, and 1998's The West of Billy the Kid. The first reproduces John Tunstall's letters to his London family, allowing one to see his innocence and integrity, which changed Billy's life. Nolan's other 2 books are an unmatchable compendium of individuals, documents, events, period photographs, and bibliographic references. However, as I discussed in Talk 20, linked below, Nolan's historical analysis is diminished by his reliance on the outlaw myth to denigrate Billy Bonney and by his missing the causative role of the Santa Fe Ring. In my opinion, the only historian to uncover the real Billy Bonney is Jerry Weddle in his meticulously researched and sensitive 1993 book, Antrim is My Stepfather's Name, about Billy's early adolescence in Silver City and Arizona Territory. Deserving mention is Norman Cleveland, the Santa Fe Ring exposing author and great-grandson of the Colfax County War's anti-ring firebrand, Mary McPherson. His 1971 book, The Morleys, Young Upstarts on the Southwest Frontier, in a homespun, ironic way, exposes early anti-ring uprisings and ring terrorism endured by his grandparents. He wrote, "When my grandparents, William Raymond Morley and Ada McPherson Morley, pioneer New Mexicans, were in their 20s, they were confronted with an establishment known as the Santa Fe Ring. By comparison, present-day establishments would rate rather as societies of butterfly collectors." And a budding and brave historian in the 1940s named Conrad Keeler Nagel took on the original ring when doing that required moxie. Researching early anti-ring rebellions in the Santa Fe legislature and Silver City, he wrote his unvarnished University of New Mexico 1943 doctoral thesis titled The History of Silver City, New Mexico, 1870 to 1886, and a 1968 article in Arizona and the West, a quarterly journal of history, titled The Rebellion of Grant County, New Mexico, in 1876. As will be seen, real Billy the Kid history has another problem as big as its historians missing its point. It's a near century of Billy the Kid hoaxes, hijacking the history by attention-craving old-timer Billy the Kid imposters and their profiteering promoters impersonating historians. Upcoming talks will hoax bust all of them.